Welcome to Love by Jane, your home for lifestyle, wellness and personal development. Starting my channel with the Inspired Chat series. Let's feel inspired together, hope you enjoy, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe.
Welcome everyone today. I'm excited today to welcome Sarah Shuttleworth. She's a breakup coach who's on a mission to help you heal after heartbreak, discover your worth and build a life that you love, which is amazing, Sarah, and thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
I'd love to start if you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Sarah, and Jane, as you said, I'm a breakup and relationship coach, and I am just a real girl's girl. I'm a real advocate for women kind of building a life that they love and not settling. You know, I hate to hear about women who are perhaps in relationships that don't make them happy, but are perhaps too scared to leave, and women that are single but not embracing that and really kind of wishing that time away. And so I'm just a real advocate for women kind of building a life that they absolutely love. And when I've tried to do that for myself, so I've got a really good circle of friends. I love what I do, and so I think that's kind of what I'm all about, really.
Oh, that's amazing. And like you say, it's surprising how much like your self-worth and confidence comes into it when it comes to dating, or if you're suffering a breakup, and having that network of good friends and knowing what you want a bit more is kind of vital in that moment, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what inspired you to start as a breakup coach then?
So I went through a breakup in 2018, and it was my kind of third breakup, I suppose, in my 20s and 30s. And after that breakup, I thought, you know what, I need to do something differently this time, because although the people I've been in relationships with weren't great, they were in lots of ways, but in some ways they weren't. I still had to stop and think, I'm still the common denominator in those breakups. And although there was no blaming of myself for that, I still had to take some responsibility to think, actually, there's probably some work that I need to be doing here. And that breakup absolutely turned my world upside down. And we were living together, we were trying for a baby, and I just thought my life was on a particular path then, really. And I thought I didn't meet, well, I'd met him, but we weren't together until I was mid-30s, early to mid-30s. And so I thought, surely by now this is the one. And when I found out that he was quite a different person actually to who I thought he was, it just threw me. And I thought, I'm going to have to start again, because I cannot accept this for myself. This isn't what I have waited for. And I think it was the toughest thing that I've ever done to walk away from that relationship. But it was also the thing that I'm absolutely most proud of, because I know I did that from a place of thinking, no, I deserve better than what I found out, about what this person is like. So I threw everything into healing. I did NLP, I did hypnotherapy, I went to counselling, I did everything that I could.
Oh, wow.
To try and heal myself from this breakup, because I thought, I've got to do it differently. What I've done before has not worked. And I had this kind of mantra, I suppose, that I kept saying to myself, and it was, we repeat what we don't repair. And to start with, I applied that to him, and I thought I could see the pattern in his behaviour, and he'd carry on repeating that. But then I had to think, hang on a minute, I need to turn that in on myself, and I need to realise that I will continue to repeat these patterns if I don't repair whatever it is that I need to work on. So I threw myself into healing mode and just did things very differently. I didn't rush into another relationship. I thought, I've got to figure this out. And it really taught me that it starts with us, and there are certain things that we have to be so clear on about ourselves before we can be in a healthy relationship. And so from there, as I healed and as I recovered, I thought, you know what, more women need to know this, and need to know that actually being single is not a bad thing. It's an incredible thing if you frame it that way. And you don't have to stay in a relationship because you're frightened that if it's not them, then it's no one. And so it really just inspired me that I have to, I really became passionate about wanting to inspire women to take that power back and to build those lives that they're absolutely in love with. And if what they want then is a healthy relationship in the future, they will be so much more equipped for going into that.
Yeah, that's really good advice there, Sarah. I like that. So important as well, because it's so easy for women especially to maybe settle in a relationship that's not right, just because we have all these pressure on us by a certain age to have achieved certain things, like having a baby, getting married. And so you maybe stay in that relationship for the wrong reasons, and then it's actually damaging yourself. And then maybe if you don't deal with these issues, you'll go into another relationship with all the past traumas and all the self-doubt. And then if you don't do that work on yourself, then you're setting yourself up for another fail then.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, I really had to learn that, because I felt that scarcity mindset, that worry about, oh, if it's not them, then it's no one. I felt that at 28, 29. If I'd have just stopped then and done the work then I mean, I don't regret anything, and I love my life, but it might have gone differently had I have done that work then. As it was, I think you keep getting the same lessons that you need until you learn them, and I just took a long time to learn the lessons. But I was so glad that I stopped at that point and thought, right, this is it now. I've got to start learning some lessons here.
And it's brilliant. It's brought you on a journey as well now to be able to help others. So there may be someone else who's like that younger version listening right now that might be thinking, oh, great, well, I can actually do this work on myself now and stop at the point that you'd hoped you had done. So
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
For anyone listening then who may be dealing with a breakup, what's the best self-care advice you would give them?
Okay, so self-care, I think, is everything. And I know it is a word that gets thrown around a lot, and people have this perception of, bubble baths and manicures and massages. Is no bad thing, because that's absolutely an essential part of self-care as well. But to me, well, I would say the first thing I'd say is, after a breakup, do not think that you need to do it on your own. Don't think that you need to go through and only deal with these things because it starts with us. That is true, but that doesn't mean that you have to deal with it on your own. So as part of your self-care after a breakup, I would absolutely say to establish your breakup support team. Who are the people in your life that are going to be able to help you in lots of different ways? So for example, after my breakup, I remember it was probably the first Saturday night after my breakup, and I didn't want to go out, but I didn't want to be on my own either. And my friend came round, and she was exactly the person that I knew was the right person to come round. And she listened to me, and, she gave me advice, because that's what I'd wanted. I think had I had just wanted her to listen, I could have said that, but I wanted some advice as well. And the other thing she did for me as well was she went round and she took all the photos out of the photo frames.
Oh, amazing.
And that would have been so tough for me to do. She just did that for me. She put them away somewhere, and that was it. And so, but I had to be vulnerable, and I had to say, could you come round? And she was there in a second, so don't feel like you have to do it on your own. There might be things that you, things that your ex always used to do that you don't know how to do. Well, it's very empowering to figure out how to do those things yourself, actually. But in the short term, you might enlist a practical pal who knows, what to do in that kind of situation. So yeah, first of all, don't feel like you have to be on your own. The second thing I'd say with self-care is you've got to do what feels right for you. So for some people, that is throwing themselves into exercise, or girls' nights in, or even nights out, or whatever it looks like for you. You've got to do what sits well and what makes you think, yes, this is me taking care of myself. It doesn't need to look a particular way. It doesn't need to be a bubble bath if you do not like bubble baths. You have to do it in a way that feels good for you. Something though that gets your endorphins up, that brings some joy into your life. That's really, really important. And I would say as well, you've got to get a balance between keeping yourself busy and also having some solitude, because I think we can keep ourselves busy, and that is great and that's important, but you don't want to do that to the point of it just being a distraction, so that you're not actually dealing with what you need to deal with. So sometimes solitude is a really important part of self-care, and it is just sitting with those emotions that you're feeling and If that means crying your eyes out, cry your eyes out. You have to do that sometimes. If that means journaling, then go through as many notebooks as you need to, because that is such an important way of getting those emotions out. And it's also a great way of seeing how much you've progressed from when you first break up with somebody to a month or 2 months down the line. That might be meditation. It might be doing yoga in your living room with a YouTube video. Whatever that is, having that time in solitude is really important, and getting that balance, because, self-care is what it says on the tin. It is taking care of yourself. And that is your most important job after a breakup, is to take care of yourself, to look after your heart, and to show yourself that you are worthy of being taken care of. And it really builds self-trust. That does. You're showing yourself that, yes, I know I deserve to be taken care of. Establishing a good bedtime routine so that you're getting good sleep, cooking nourishing food, all of those things will build self-trust, that you think, yeah, I deserve this. I deserve to be taken care of. And that's the key to it. Whatever that looks like for you, that's the key to it.
Yeah, really important things to consider there, Sarah, because like you say, the solitude part, I think, gets neglected in the self-care process. It's so many things, like you say, about just focusing on maybe like bubble baths and things like that you forget that time is like your healing process, and it's vital. And you can't really connect with yourself unless you take that time out to maybe journal and things like that. So yeah, really important process. And what's the best way that someone can maybe enjoy dating again and get ready for a new relationship? Because you want to have the enjoyment process. Once you've got past all the healing part and you're ready to move on, you know yourself a bit better and you're worthy and what you want to do. So how can you enjoy it again?
Yeah, I think it can be so difficult. And I honestly resonate so much with that feeling of, oh, I can't believe I'm back here again, having on dates again. It doesn't always feel exciting, does it? Sometimes it's a bit exhausting. And I totally resonate with that. I really do. And I think in terms of dating, I'll come on to looking for a relationship in a minute. But in terms of dating, I think this can be difficult, but try not to put too much pressure on it. You're not going on a date to decide if a person is the love of your life. You're going on a date to spend an hour, if you want to, with a new person that you could learn something from, that might enrich your life, even if it's a very small way. It doesn't need to be, oh, is this person going to be the love of my life? It doesn't need to be that. So really, dates are about gathering information. All you really want to conclude from the first few dates is, am I happy to see this person again? That's all really. And if your answer is no, then okay, you've given them an hour. I'd always say, from a practical point of view, go for a drink, don't go for a meal for the first date or so, just so you're not stuck there if there's no chemistry.
Yeah, good tip.
It's your life, you've got things to do. So if it's a drink, you can be gone within an hour. But I think that's important, to keep that pressure out of it. Keep it in the date. Focus on, this is date 1, this is date 2. I am learning, I am gathering information about this person. I am figuring out if I'd like to see them for date 3. And that's all it needs to be. You might go away from that date thinking they're not the right person for me, but they have told me about a restaurant they went to and I am absolutely going to try that restaurant now. So that was a great hour well spent then.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and, they might have told you about some traveling that they've done that you think, oh God, I've never thought of going to that country, but I'm definitely going to go there now. So that is not wasted time. You've learned something from that person in that time. So yeah, just go into it with that attitude of, this is an hour of my life. What can I learn from this person? I can have a good conversation with an interesting person, and anything more than that is a bonus. So that might help with the kind of dating side of things and taking that pressure off a little. In terms of feeling ready for a new relationship, I think the key there is to actually have made the most of that single time to figure out who you are and what you want, and what your non-negotiables are, and what your values are, and what your boundaries are. Because being single is the ideal time to figure that out, actually. So that when you go into a new relationship, you'll spot red flags more easily. You'll know, okay, this person has this trait that I'm seeing on date one, I'm not sure, let's just note it as information, see if they show it again in date two. If you don't know what it is you want, you're not going to be able to spot those red flags. So I would 100% say that while you're single, use that time, and while you're recovering from your breakup, use that time to figure out what it is you want in the future. So that will really help. But also, it is your time to make sure you're exhibiting those qualities yourself. So if you know that you want, a kind and generous person, but you also have tendencies to not be very kind and generous, then now is the time to be working on exhibiting those qualities yourself. I'm a big believer that like attracts like. If you're putting unkindness out there into the world, you can't expect to meet a person who's kind, so if you're clear on what you want, and then do a bit of a check and think, okay, and am I this kind of person as well? And your single time is the perfect time to get ready for a relationship by working on those qualities in yourself as well.
Yeah, it's amazing, taking the pressure off ourselves a bit and enjoying the dates, learning as we go along, and then like you say, you know more than what you actually want from a proper relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it. So were there any relationship or dating coaches that inspire you, especially to help you, having got into what you've got into?
There are so many amazing women that I follow on Instagram, actually, who are doing amazing things in the world of dating and relationships. But I have to mention one person, and anyone who knows me knows this one particular person. It's a man, actually. He's very well known, but he's called Matthew Hussey.
Oh yes, love him.
Honestly, I absolutely love him, and I have followed him for years, and so I have to talk about him because he has inspired me so much. And yes, he is a dating and relationship coach, but it is so much more than that, because he aims his coaching at women, but he focuses on confidence, building a life that includes your passions and going after what you want and being the best version of yourself. And I just think his work, he's so compassionate and so full of wisdom. And he's got a real knack of presenting quite a simple idea in such a way that you think, why have I never thought of that before? He puts things across, and he uses a lot of analogies. And I'll share one, actually, that I think his brother originally came up with. And it's related to breakups. And he talked about the hangover recovery method after a breakup versus the athlete recovery method.
Oh.
So the hangover recovery method is exactly as it sounds. When you're hungover, what do? Well, we go for the junk food. We stay in our pajamas all day. We don't get up off the sofa, and we don't particularly take care of ourselves in the best way, perhaps, but we're getting over our hangover. And he said that sometimes in breakups we do that, and we don't look after ourselves in the best way we can. A different approach would be the athlete recovery method. So if you imagine that an athlete, let's say they've injured their shoulder, so their shoulder is out of action at the minute, but they're not going to just sit at home and do nothing. They're going to do leg training, or they're going to do strength training in a different way. And so they're still going to be working on themselves, but that shoulder is out of action for now. Well, when we go through a breakup, our heart is the part of us that is out of action. It needs healing. It needs recovery. But that doesn't mean that you take the rest of yourself out of the game. You can be working on your friendships. You can be working on your health and wellness. You can be working on family relationships, career. So by the time your heart is ready to get back in the game again, the rest of you hasn't suffered. The rest of you is thriving. And that's just one of my kind of favorite analogies that he uses that I think is just so helpful. So yeah, 100% check him out.
That's brilliant. That's a great analogy, because like you say, it's all about self-worth and confidence. And if you keep working on yourself, you're actually bettering yourself, ready to meet the person that matters. So you're a good version of yourself. Hopefully you'll meet someone who's a good version of their self. So I love it. Brilliant. Yeah, I'm with you there with Matthew Hussey.
And he's hot, which doesn't
a little bonus. Dating being such a minefield these days, and like you say, yourself and him give such great advice on how to build up your self-care routine, build up your self-worth, enjoy dating again. What are your thoughts between dating apps versus like the traditional method of meeting someone through friends or maybe hobbies? Because obviously dating apps do generate a lot of all the negative side with maybe ghosting, etc. But then you do hear lovely stories of people that have actually met through dating apps as well. So obviously, I don't know what your thoughts are with that.
I mean, I think dating apps are tricky, and I do have a bit of a love-hate relationship with them. I'm not going to lie. I think they have a lot of benefits. So in an ideal world, I know this isn't always the case, but in an ideal world, you would hope that the people on there are single. So that at least rules out that deliberation of if you're out and you spot someone that you quite like and you've got no idea if they're single, if they're straight, like you don't know that information. And on a dating app, they are presenting that information to you, as well as information around, do they want children, or, you know, are they looking for something serious? You know that up front. So the filter system that provides is actually quite a positive thing, I think, really. But there are obviously negatives as well. And so I think the most important thing is you've got to do what feels right for you with it, really. And I've been on dating apps before, and then I thought, you know what, this just doesn't feel right at the moment. I'm not in the right place for this. So you just delete them. You're under no obligation to be on there all the time. Go on for a week, see how it feels. If it doesn't feel right, come off it again. I'd say it's a good thing to do to treat people how you would want to be treated on there. And, you know, we might experience things like ghosting, but we can kind of set an example, I suppose, in how we treat other people. So I think that's quite an important skill, I suppose, to develop in a way. But yeah, I think you've got to see if it sits well with you using them, and if it's making you feel not great, if it's making you feel disheartened, fed up, disappointed, then maybe take a little break from it. I think the danger with them is that it can replace the other ways of meeting people, and we can start to think that that's the only way. Now, obviously, we're coming out of a pandemic. It has been the only way for a little while. I get that, but we are on the way out now. So I think meeting somebody through friends or through hobbies is great, because you already know there's some commonalities there. There are things you can talk about. There's common interests. So that's brilliant. I guess my top piece of advice would be, don't let dating apps stop you from seeing opportunities that are out there in the inverted commas real world. Because, you know, I've seen it before when I've been in bars and people are swiping on these apps. Meanwhile, there are probably all these single people literally in the same room as them, and they're not spotting them because they're swiping on an app. So look up, you know, and look for opportunities to just strike up conversation. And that doesn't need to be with somebody that you think, again, is going to be the love of your life. You could strike up a conversation with somebody that's standing behind you in the queue for getting coffee and just chat, like just have a little chat. It doesn't need to go anywhere, but it helps us to practice that skill of having conversations with people and striking up conversations, where so many people these days have got their head in their phone. Well, why don't we just chat to people that are around us, you know? And that may well lead to something at some point, but the more conversations you have, the more likely you are that actually at some point it might turn into a friendship or something more, or, you know, a friendship that then they introduce you to somebody. You don't know. There's a world of possibilities out there, and I think sometimes we miss it because we're sitting swiping on an app. So I think you've got to get that balance. The other thing I'd say about dating apps is, in my opinion, it's a good idea once you've established that you feel safe, because obviously that's key. But I would try and have a phone call and then actually meet them sooner rather than later, because endless messages build up a false intimacy, and you don't know if you've got that chemistry until you meet somebody. And chatting on the phone first can help with that as well, I think. But that would just be a little bit of advice, I think, to move it away from endless messages as soon as you can, so that you know if there is that connection, because you've got a busy life to lead. So try not to spend too much time on endless messages, and enjoy what's going on in the world outside of dating apps, and look for opportunities there as well.
Yeah, it's all about getting a healthy balance into it and doing what's right for yourself. Like you
Yeah.
say, if you're not feeling the apps for a little bit, take a break is a good one. And like you say, just don't miss out on maybe someone in that coffee queue that you maybe like, and just chat to them and see what happens.
Yeah.
So would you be able to give us then your top tips for a better relationship with ourselves and then dating in the rest of 2021?
Yeah, so I think this tip hopefully will help with both of those. It will help with the relationship with yourself, and it will also help to build healthy relationships in the future. And I think something that's really important for us to do every so often is to take a bit of a life inventory. So if you think of your life like a pie chart, and there are all of these different elements that make up your life, and so we've got family, friends, career, health and wellness, for some people things like spirituality. So if you think of your life as a pie chart with all of those different components in it, some people will feel that a romantic relationship is a big gap in that pie chart that they're missing. So rather than thinking of it like that, fill your pie chart up with all of these amazing things that you want to fill your life with: friends, family, hobbies, career, whatever it is. Make sure that pie chart is full, because then you don't have that sense of lack, I suppose. And it doesn't mean then that we don't have room for anybody else, because you know what happens if you're busier in your job, you might spend less time with your friends, so you have to shrink one element to accommodate another. So if you meet somebody, then of course you will accommodate them, and they will become a chunk of that pie chart as well. But they're not a missing part in the meantime, because you've worked on all of the elements that you want to create quite a full life. So if it is that you feel like you're lacking in the career element, for example, use your time to work on that, to build a career that you love, to think about training that you might do, or whatever it is. And so that area can then expand, and you won't feel a sense of lack, I suppose. And so that would kind of be my top tip, to really think about your life, irrespective of a romantic relationship. What do you want your life to look like? And when it's full and thriving like that, you will be in a place of such a higher energy that you're more likely to attract somebody in that can then absolutely fit into that, because all of those elements might need to shrink down a little bit, but then there is a nice space that's created for somebody to fit in, rather than it being a gap that's waiting, and you feel that sense of lack. So that would be my top tip, that I think will both help to build healthy relationships in the future, because you've got your own fulfilled life, but also will help you to really kind of feel a sense of love for yourself and for your life.
Oh, that's lovely. It's really good advice. Thanks so much, Sarah, for joining us today. It's really helpful tips there that people can take away as well. And for anyone that would love to maybe take the next step, how can they find you, and how can they work with you?
So on Instagram, I am at coaching.by.sarah. So that is the easiest way. So you can drop me a DM on there. And my one-to-one coaching program is launching in the autumn, along with my website. So keep an eye out for that as well. But for now, Instagram is the best place to find me.
Oh, that's really exciting stuff. We'll definitely keep an eye out for your website, and obviously I'll link that on the blog as well. Thank you so much for talking to us today. It's been lovely hearing all about relationships and dating, especially the minefield that it is. It's been lovely talking to you.